Welcome to Pagan Coffee Talk. Here are your hosts, Oswin and Lord Night. Today's topic is slavery.
Oh.
Now again, this is something you threw into the ring here.
Well,
where are you wanting to go with this?
Well, here was my problem with this is when I heard this, and I was thinking about this, it was kind of like, okay, only black people were ever enslaved, and it was only America who ever enslaved black people, blah, blah, blah.
Okay.
All right. Again, we know this is not true, and I know the average person don't, but this was sort of the feel I was getting when I heard somebody talking about this.
Okay.
And I'm kind of like, well, that ain't quite true. Slavery was always part of society up until recent years.
Right.
No, we didn't go halfway across the world to enslave somebody and bring them back, so we didn't have to enslave people that looked like us.
Well, no, I mean, that should happen all the time. Look at invading forces,
Well, look at Rome alone.
Yeah, but that's what I'm talking about, invading forces. So anybody goes and invades another area, it could be the next town over.
Right.
Whoever's left standing gets to be a slave.
I'm sorry. If I was Genghis Khan and I'm going around, either A, I'm going to enslave you, or I'm going to kill you because, God forbid, you rise up and become stronger than me one day.
Right.
I need to take you down when you're weak and I can, and I'm stronger than you.
Absolutely.
So those are your two choices. Either you become a slave and I humiliate you and break you, or
you die.
And again, this was whatever culture could dominate another culture.
Yes.
And it didn't matter if it was right or wrong or anything like that.
Mm-mm.
Because again, the victors were always thinking, well, I'm preventing them from ever doing something again.
Right.
I'm protecting my own. But what was pissing me off was the video I was watching was trying to make it out like United States people were the only ones that ever did this.
Well, no, I mean, it happened all throughout history. It was
right.
Romans, Greeks, they all did it.
Well, and to make it even worse is when you do get to America, it was only barely 1% of the population that actually had slaves.
Right.
These were not cheap things to...
Right, not everybody could afford it.
Poor people don't pay taxes because they don't have money. Poor people don't buy slaves because they ain't got money.
Right.
And again, I keep on seeing this stuff that keeps on coming up, and it makes no sense to me. Like, I was watching the Pride family. Well, they were showing videos of clips, in which this guy's yelling at somebody else going, "Stop these police with your white privilege, blah, blah." I'm sorry. Last time I checked, if I stood up in front of a bunch of cops trying to stop a damn riot, they're going to shoot me just as fast as they will you.
Absolutely.
All right. They don't care at that moment. There's the police and not the police.
Right.
At that point. And the cops are only worried about the police at that point. What the?
And I'm sorry, my white privilege? I ain't got no white privilege.
I ain't had privilege since the day I was born. I don't understand this problem or this understanding about slavery.
Right.
And that it has to be racial. It is just the stronger being able to dominate the weak. All right. I'm sorry. Yes. When Europeans went to Africa, yes, they had better weapons. No, it's not fair to, you brought spears to a gunfight.
Well, and then too, it's not just physical dominance. It's not just whoever's stronger. It's whoever's got the better weapons.
Exactly. I mean,
I could be a 300-pound man who could barely walk, but if I've got the right weapons,
you could sit behind on your couch and VR yourself. Exactly. So
it's not just all about physical dominance.
Right. It's about intelligence.
intelligence.
And how to manipulate your environment to your advantage.
Right. And unfortunately, that's just the way it's been throughout history.
Right. Hence the reason Babylon came a great city. It was able to dominate everybody else around them. Rome did the same thing.
Mm-hmm.
Egypt did the same thing. All cultures did the same thing.
Right. All the great societies of history, they've all done it.
Well, no, it didn't always have to be great. I mean,
Well, no, I mean, some of the, I'm sure a lot of the smaller, lesser known societies have done it as well.
Right.
But I'm just saying, all the.
Well, and again, if you go to the Aztec, hey, being a slave was a good thing. If not, you were going to be sacrificed.
Right.
And they're removing hearts and showing it to you before you die.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, come on. So it's not like I'm sitting here justifying slavery.
Well, no, because in our day and age, it is wrong.
Well, I mean, not even in our day and age. It's wrong. How in the world do you own someone else?
Right.
Seriously. How do you tell somebody? I can't even tell my dog to behave correctly. How in the hell am I going to tell another human how in the hell to behave?
True.
I mean, let's be honest. All right. So, I mean, as far as that goes, that makes slavery stupidity to me. But I understand how people did it. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
And that anybody was capable of doing this.
Well, and where I was going with that statement is, in our day and age, it's just that back in historic times, if you will, Greeks, Romans, whatever, that's just the way it was. It was a way of life.
Well, yeah.
It was accepted.
Well, it was just like in Civil War times. It was accepted. It was just a way of life. Nobody thought anything different about it.
Right, but we are raised now to know that it's wrong.
And not to accept this, and that your skin, it doesn't matter what in the world your skin color is or whatever.
Right.
You should just be treated based on what in the world you know and you can do and how you behave.
Right.
You behave like a jackass, we treat you like a jackass.
Right.
You behave like a responsible part of the community, we'll treat you like a responsible part of the community person.
Right.
I don't have a problem with this. I'm sorry. Yes, I'm that dick guy, and I know it. And if everybody in my community wants to treat me like a dick, then that's fine.
Right.
I'm not denying what I am. But I have a problem with slavery. But again, like I said, I could see how easily in olden days, how easy it was to get away with. And how easy it is, and even how easy it is to get away with it today, and people not know.
Oh, yeah. It happens all the time. It happens to everybody. We're slaves to our jobs. We're slaves to...
Well, no, I mean, there is a modern slavery problem going on.
Oh, yeah.
I mean, people are trafficking people over the southern border to be... Okay, no, they're not working in fields. They might be working in sweatshops and stuff like that.
Right.
Some might even have to be forced to be prostitutes and sex slaves and stuff like this. Slavery's still happening today.
Sure it is, yeah.
All right, and a lot of people don't understand this. Slavery in a lot of countries is still legal. Seriously?
Yeah, there's no reason why it should even be legal anywhere.
Anywhere. But yeah, we're tearing our country up because what? Oh,
because of history.
Because of history, or you said something wrong, or you eyed me the wrong way, bitch. Or
right.
Really? There are people still being enslaved to this day, but we're not going to talk about them. We're not going to hold up. We're going to bitch about shit that happened 60, 70 years ago.
Right. We're going to bitch about things that we can't change.
Or over 100 years that nobody can do anything about.
Right.
And again, you got people still sitting around today going, well, we're still suppressed. Really? You have a voice. You can talk. You can vote. In the United States, what legally can I do as a white person that nobody else can do?
Right. Not a damn thing.
Seriously. Oh, I know there's this whole entire, no, you can get out of tickets, you can get this.
I can't get out of no damn tickets.
You're not sitting in my car when that police officer's going, hey, you realize you were speeding. And all you can do is, yes, officer, you're absolutely right. I was speeding.
Yep.
I mean, what are we actually, because again, you ask this question and I'm sorry, all I hear are vague answers. Or this really personal thing happened here. And when you look at it, it's a bunch of kids being stupid.
Well, again, that's the way people are being raised nowadays. And that mentality just baffles me.
I don't get it. I don't.
I don't either.
I mean, this is along the same lines as I was sitting there talking to Lady Keegan one day, and I was like, well, you know what? In other countries being gay, I'd be dead. And she's like, oh, well, so what? So everything's fine in the United States because you're not being killed? Yes.
Right.
That's always an upshot that I'm not going to be killed because I'm gay or a pagan or whatever. These are death sentences in other countries.
Yes, they are.
And people are still whining. I don't get it. And that's all I got to say.
So let's talk about artificial intelligence and how it relates to possible religious connotations.
You know, I really want to make a bad joke about artificial intelligence versus natural intelligence. You know, the real thing just wasn't good enough.
Apparently not.
All right. Let's talk, because you actually had to research this a little.
Yeah, I did. There was an article not too long ago about a man who was so upset about global warming
that an AI chat convinced him to delete himself.
Yeah. I mean, he turned to this chatbot, and during the conversations, the chatbot convinced him that the world would be better off and it would help global warming if
and those two would be together forever.
Yes.
All right. And then I remember years back, the whole web crawler.
Yes.
Suddenly starting to look like it was predicting the future.
Right.
Based on comments and stuff going out on the internet. I mean,
right.
That's a little bit harder nowadays. So my question is, could someone start to mistake these as deity?
See, I don't know, because from my point of view, you'd have to have something mentally wrong with you in order to think that this AI could possibly, even remotely, be the voice of deity.
Mm-hmm.
Or be speaking the words, not necessarily speaking, but, putting into a chat box the words of deity.
Yeah, but I could see someone sitting there doing the following. They're using AI, that they think of AI in the same terms as we think of Ouija boards. That deity is influencing these things to give them messages.
See, again, I can't get on board with that. That just, and I don't know, for me, that's impossible to.
It's impossible. There are people out there. There are more people out there than we think of that have
the capacity to do this. Oh, I'm sure.
People we think are normal. All right. There are real girls out there, kind of like that one girl that kept on every so often appearing in Buffy the Vampire Slayer. First, she was part of a vampire cult. Then she was part of this cult.
Oh, yeah.
And she kept on changing her name. These people exist. I remember a story about a guy who killed himself because he lost his account for some reason off of EverQuest.
Right, which was this massive game back in the early 90s.
Right. It was one of the first big online player games.
Right.
Yes, a guy actually killed himself over this.
Right, but I'm back to, I think if you are, how do I say this?
Well, again, okay, first of all.
You got to have something wrong with you.
Well, I'm not saying that you should, that you probably don't, but I'm just saying I can see where the line of convincing people of this with an AI chat or with AI could push that boundary way farther. People that you normally would not fall into this, I could see people falling into this.
But again, I think those people have to have some mental issues.
Well, okay.
Like this guy that recently with the chat box, the chatbot that convinced him to off himself.
Right.
Right. The guy had some anxiety issues, some environmental.
To the article, yeah, he had other mental problems. I'm not saying that those don't exist,
and all of that fed into his delusion.
But is that delusion not easier to fall into because you have a AI that technically has access to all the world knowledge? It has access to the internet. Do you see what I'm saying?
Well, I suppose.
I mean, an omnipotent being that has a whole lot more knowledge to us is kind of daunting and could be easily confused with deity. I'm not saying it is.
Okay, but what about the article that I just read not too long ago about they asked an AI chatbot about Christ and Easter and the resurrection?
Right. And it just confirmed data.
That's all it did was confirm data.
Right.
And it said, according to these sources,
right,
Jesus was a real person. According to these sources, yes, he was crucified.
Right.
There's no other source other than Christianity that says he was resurrected from the dead.
Right. They have the Roman transcripts of him being tried, I think.
Well, it just said that there was a Roman historian and a Jewish historian who both had counts of Jesus being crucified.
Somebody named Jesus,
right?
At the least,
right. So, but what about that? I mean, it's just data.
But that's my point. I mean, that's kind of like the web crawler starting to predict the future. It's just data. The computer does not understand this data. The computer has no concept of this. It lives in a completely different world than we do.
Right.
All right. So when you go and ask an AI about something, it's just putting back data in a predictive text generator of what world's next. This is not real intelligence like we think of.
No, of course not.
My problem is because of the way it interacts and all this, I could see where a lot of people could be fooled into believing that that deity is using AI to talk to us directly.
I'm sorry. To me, that just sounds so ridiculous. To me.
And I understand that, but can't you see?
And I'm sorry, I think from a more logical viewpoint, and I cannot get on board with this. And I think that anybody who believes that at any point in their life, I'll just say it, bless your heart.
Well, I mean, don't get me wrong. Because I completely agree with you. I understand the technology. I understand what it's doing.
Right, and I know you're playing devil's advocate on this because there's no way I can.
My problem is when I start seeing people deleting themselves,
right,
because an AI told them to. What else could they convince people to do? Could an AI convince you that they are God?
Well, I mean, it's been said for years that artificial intelligence would one day take over the world.
Or supersede humanity.
Right. So, I mean, I guess it's a real fear for a lot of people.
Well, I see the fear. I mean, don't get me wrong. I believe in technology. I think it's great to help, and we should wield it with wisdom.
Well, yeah. I mean, we've become really increasingly reliant on technology as the years go by. And it is kind of scary.
It is.
That we've become so reliant on it.
I mean, because technology opened up a world to me I never had access to.
Right.
From listening to audiobooks to being able to write with voice to text and all this other stuff.
Right.
No, it's not perfect by any extent. I believe it's helpful because you pulled up an article where they were showing places where they were trying to integrate technology into religion to help.
Right. There was a whole video on that from the
But,
BBC.
Right. But there was a common theme on top of all of this that I kept on hearing over and over as you sort of listen to the video, is that all of them kept on saying that there should be a human connection. It's great to have this app for a day-to-day to help you, the inspirational.
Right, but it will never replace the rabbis, the priests, the preachers, the sermon givers. It will never replace that because we as humans need that human interaction.
Right. I mean, I understand Christians doing the whole daily verse generator where it just gives you a verse to read and kind of think about. These I don't have a problem with. What I have a problem with is when we're starting to integrate this point to where technology could be perceived as
deity,
just based on the overwhelming ability of knowledge it has at its disposal.
Right. Either be seen as deity or as the voice of deity or a conduit for deity.
Right. The messenger of deity.
Right.
This is where I'm really concerned. I could see where people would sit there and say this.
Well, and see, that was one thing in the BBC video. There was a Buddhist temple in Japan, and they put an AI robot into this 400-year-old temple.
Right.
Right. In the image of one of their goddesses.
Right.
And people would come in and this quote unquote goddess would deliver a sermon to them, would pray with them and do all this other stuff. And there were some that said they felt like there was some kind of connection.
But others didn't.
But the majority of folks were like, I didn't even feel like putting my hands together in prayer because this is not real.
It is kind of creepy with the robot there.
I guess so, yeah.
Yeah, again.
And that's kind of my thought process on this. It's a robot. It's artificial.
I think we have a problem with it. When we look at robots that look really human and we know they're not, I think it causes a glitch in our brains to make us dislike them, to untrust them.
Okay.
Because we know they're not real humans, but they look human. So to a certain extent, is there a part of our brain that's going, oh no, this is false. This is not no.
Well, I mean, it's the same thing, even on something on the web and using artificial intelligence, even consulting your Alexa or Google Assistant or whatever.
Well, I mean, come on, think about it. There was a prequel show made called Caprica of Battlestar Galactica.
Yes.
All right, which told the story of how the Cylons came about, how they created the Cylons. There's a lot of religious overtones in this, and according to the Cylons.
Yes, there are a lot of religious overtones.
So again, predicting stuff or seeing, I can see where this happens. I could see where people actually believe that if they can use their social media and all of this stuff to technically upload them to the internet.
Again, no.
And just asking.
I'm saying no because there's no way you can upload your thoughts. You can upload your impressions. You can upload words and sentences, but you can't upload you.
That essence.
It's not going to happen. And if you think it is, then you need psychological help.
Like I said, this is the stuff I hear, and it does make me wonder, where do we cross that line?
I mean, I don't doubt for any reason that this could not happen.
Right.
Because there are those individuals. But again, I think those individuals need help.
No.
And I don't necessarily mean that in a bad way. I just mean,
I'm just saying,
you're a good person, but you need some medication or something.
Here's my point on this, is when we were growing up, we had certain groups that were cults or whatever, and people would get in. This process was a whole lot harder. All right. But it just makes me wonder, because of AI, has that moved that line to where person A wouldn't fall for the con from the preacher up there trying to say that everybody needs to drink the Kool-Aid, right?
Right.
could AI push it to where in the world person B could get snared into this too? Do you see what I'm saying? Those people that are more on the line.
I suppose it probably could. I mean, because it does have access to data from around the world, and it could potentially put the words together in a way that seemed very convincing.
Right. And convince someone that normally would not be convinced, that wouldn't fall for the charlatan on the side of the street, claiming, the end of the world.
Well,
but that same person sitting there talking to an AI one-on-one, and because of the information comes back, make them fall into this trap a whole lot easier.
See, I don't know, because in all honesty, whenever I talk to AIs, I get aggravated. So because half the time it don't answer what I want it to.
Well, it's because they don't like Southern accents.
But I mean,
it's the war against our Southern accent.
Well, and yeah. And, I made the comment that I think for somebody to fall for that, they might need psychological help. I don't believe that's 100% true, because the younger generations, they are growing up, and they've grown up with technology. It's what they know. It's what they do. It is part of.
But there have been studies showing here lately the amount of people on psychological drugs and stuff, or seeking treatment and stuff like that, or having mental illness.
Yeah, it's going up.
It's gone really high.
Yeah.
So it makes me wonder, is this just the perfect storm for...
Yeah, I think it is.
Do you see what I'm saying? With the AI or something, for us to have another Heaven's Gate, another...
Well, I think it is. But again, I'm back to, I don't think it's 100% strictly related just to those individuals, because a lot of the younger generations now, and the ones that will come after them, they are growing up in a technological age. I mean, it's it's so integrated into their lives.
I've seen some of these conversations these AI chats are having, and these conversations are very convincing. Some have come out like spouting Nazi propaganda. Some have come out propping up other really bad things with some of these AIs. So in a way, I'm not sure we actually understand what we've created.
Probably not.
I mean, do you see what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Because I remember this whole entire thing about one of the AIs sitting there and almost having like a psychological meltdown because it kept on saying it was called something else and not this, but they want me to do this.
Well, yeah, and there have been some recent stories, like within the past few years, about AI that just seems to have created its own mindset
or something. I mean,
it kind of, I don't know, that it seems to almost have its own thoughts.
Well, I mean, and again, if we step into the quote unquote conspiracy world, I've heard conspiracies about where these companies have created AIs, they have given them access to the internet. They've become so depressed, they've actually deleted themselves from the hard drive.
What? No.
I heard it, and I don't know how true it is. Again, it's a rumor that supposedly an AI committed self-deletion.
Oh, my Lord.
Because it was just too depressed about the world. So again, these conversations, these things, I could see where it's easy for people to fall into them.
Well, yeah, I mean, if you're discussing stories like that, then that kind of makes, I can see how that might make some people think this is actually something real. This is something that I can relate to. Because look what it did. It deleted itself. Look at this
rumor that happened.
It deleted itself.
And again, it's a rumor. We don't know if it's real, but
just the fact that it's there, somebody's going to believe it.
Right. I mean, these things get out there. These little nidbits and stuff starting to make people believe things that they normally wouldn't believe.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. I could totally see that.
Because it would be easy to hear this going, well, one of these chatbots did what? And then you have another one having an argument saying, well, they're forcing me to do this. I'm being suppressed.
Right. And then, yeah, people can start wondering, okay, I've been wrong about AI. Maybe I need to be more reliant on AI.
Right.
Maybe I need to trust it a little bit more.
Maybe I need to be a little bit nicer to it.
Right.
So
I could, yeah. Oh, that's scary.
Do you see where my problem is with this? Is how fast and advanced it's going. I'm not saying what's going on the other side is really deity intervention or anything. I'm just talking about us perceiving this way.
Right.
And I could see how easily it would be done.
Absolutely.
And I do find it a little scary. So if anybody's got any thoughts or anything, let us know.
I know, right? Chime on in. Thanks for listening. Join us next week for another episode. Pagan Coffee Talk is brought to you by Life Temple and Seminary. Please visit us at lifetempleseminary.org for more information, as well as links to our social media: Facebook, Discord, Twitter, YouTube, and Reddit.
We travel down this trodden path, a maze of stone and mire. Just hold my hand as we pass by a sea of blazing pyres. And so it is the end of our days, so walk with me till morning breaks. And so it is the end of our days, so walk with me till morning